the town that vanished overnight, the mystery of Centralia. Every crime has a motive, every tragedy has a trigger, and in the case of Centralia, Pennsylvania, the killer was buried beneath the town the whole time. A town built on black gold. In the early 1960s, Centralia was an ordinary blue-collar town of about 1,100 people. Everyone knew everyone, and nearly everyone worked the mines. Beneath the town stretched an enormous web of coal tunnels, the veins that kept Centralia alive. The townspeople depended on the coal. It paid their wages, heated their homes, and fueled the local economy. But like so many small mining towns, they didn't realize they were living on top of something volatile, something waiting for a single mistake. The spark that shouldn't have been. The crime that destroyed Centralia didn't start with a weapon, a robbery, or a grudge. It began with a garbage fire. On May 27, 1962, the local council decided to clean up an old landfill on the edge of town. Their plan was simple: burn the trash, as they'd done before. But this landfill wasn't just a pile of garbage. It had been built directly over an abandoned mine shaft, one that connected to miles of underground coal tunnels. When the fire was lit, the flames did what fire always does. They searched for fuel, and just below the surface, they found plenty. The fire slipped through cracks in the rock and ignited the coal seams beneath the ground. That spark, an act so ordinary no one even noticed it, became a crime scene. Because from that moment on, Centralia's fate was sealed. At first, the signs were subtle. Wisps of smoke, a faint sulfur smell in the air, small patches of warm ground. But within months, it was clear something was very wrong. The fire was spreading, silently, invisibly, beneath the entire town. The ground started cracking open. Carbon monoxide levels rose. Basements grew unbearably hot. Residents began to feel sick. Some woke up dizzy or nauseous from the gases seeping into their homes. The town's lifeblood, the coal, had turned into its killer. Centralia itself had become the victim. Hashtag the investigation. Fighting an invisible enemy. Authorities moved quickly. The state tried to contain the fire by pumping water into mines, sealing off tunnels, even excavating trenches to cut the fire line. But the fire wasn't a typical blaze. It was a monster buried hundreds of feet underground, feeding on miles of fuel that could last centuries. Every attempt to stop it failed. The more they dug, the more they realized a horrifying truth. The fire wasn't spreading in a straight line. It was branching out, twisting through old tunnels like a living thing. Centralia's fate became a case that no one could solve. And with each passing year, the invisible killer grew stronger. When the ground fought back, for nearly 2 decades, officials tried to convince residents that everything was under control. But in 1981, Centralia struck back violently. A 12-year-old boy named Todd Domboski was playing his grandmother's yard when the ground suddenly gave way beneath him. He plunged into a steaming pit, 4 feet wide and over 100 feet deep. The sinkhole was filled with toxic gas, hot enough to kill him in seconds. Todd survived only because his cousin pulled him to safety. When rescue teams tested the pit, they discovered the carbon monoxide levels were deadly. It was now impossible to deny what everyone already knew. The fire had taken over. The entire town was unsafe. The investigation had failed. The crime scene had consumed the victim. By the early 1980s, the fire stretched across nearly 400 acres of coal. The ground was so hot that snow melted instantly, and roadways buckled like paper. Officials had no choice but to act. They evacuated Centralia, offering residents buyouts for their homes. Some accepted. Others refused to leave. People who couldn't abandon their past, even if it was burning beneath them. Eventually, the state invoked eminent domain, seizing every property. The U.S. Postal Service even revoked Centralia's zip code 17927, as if erasing the town could erase the problem. But nothing could stop the fire. Centralia became a ghost town, condemned by the same government that had once promised to save it. The crime that never ended. Today, Centralia doesn't officially exist. Only a few stubborn residents remain, living in what looks like an empty wasteland. Cracked roads still bleed smoke. Steam rises from vents hidden in the weeds. The air smells faintly of sulfur. And deep beneath the surface, the fire still burns, slow, silent, unstoppable. Scientists say it could continue for another 250 years. Centralia's killer was never caught because it wasn't human. It was greed, neglect, and ignorance, a crime committed by accident and covered up by time. The coal that once gave the town life had, in the end, taken it away. A town that burns forever. Every true crime has a lesson, even one without a murderer. Centralia's story is a reminder that destruction doesn't always come from malice. Sometimes it comes from complacency, from believing we can control nature, profit from it, and walk away untouched. But the earth never forgets. Beneath the green hills of Pennsylvania, the fire still burns, patient, eternal, and merciless. Centralia didn't vanish overnight. It was buried alive, and it's still burning. Tell us what you think in the comment section. Like and subscribe for more videos like this.